Okay. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Hope it's awesome. My name's Anthony Greaves. I'm going to be doing part one of a 3-part video series going over my discoveries with the original language of the Torah. Now, this original language of the Torah is not what we call modern-day Hebrew. It's a very different thing. And this original language was written in a pictographic language. There are a lot of revelations that are involved in this. There's a whole book I'm writing about it. But just to start, we're going to dive into sort of how this began, my journey and everything. So, the Alpe'a'bit, what I'm calling the Alpe'a'bit, was evolved by the sacred will in Far West Asia. What started as the Proto-Canaanite language and script and mixed with Egyptian hieroglyphs to put into stone the sacred language of the Torah. It's what scholars now call Proto-Sinaitic languages. I call this language Alpe'a'bit. After the first 2 letters of the script. That would be Alp and Bit. Alpe'a'bit. Right? So, this differs from an alphabet, as the Alpe'a'bit was the original alphabet. An alphabet is actually something more like a twisting up of the original language. And that's what I'm going to show, is that this Alpe'a'bit, the Alpe'a'bit, the original language of the Torah, that language, that Alpe'a'bit, was the first alphabet. It was the first alphabet, and I'm going to show that it evolved into every single other alphabet. When this alphabet was originally created, it used it was in a pictographic language, a pictographic script, essentially. And this pictographic script, each picture has a meaning, right? And those meanings would come together, and they come together to create strings of meanings, which form words. Unlike our current languages, which our letters don't have any fundamental meanings. Now, over time, the understanding of how to speak this language was either lost or intentionally hidden by darker forces that seek to control us. This language is the blessing from Alea, from God. And it teaches us how to speak true blessings to each other. Alright, let's look at the evolution of this, okay? What started as the Proto-Canaanite, Proto-Alpe'a'bit, was developed in Egypt. I actually believe it was developed by Joseph and his sons when he was in Egypt as a slave. That script is then the script that God used to give the Torah, that language and that alphabet, that Alpe'a'bit, was the Alpe'a'bit used by God to give the Torah to Moses. Alright? So then we have the Alpe'a'bit here. And this Alpe'a'bit stems from this sort of Proto-Canaanite language and alphabet. Now that split and went all over the world. One split became the ancient Phoenician alphabet. And that ancient Phoenician alphabet ultimately is what became the ancient Greek alphabet and then the modern Greek. And then the ancient Latin alphabet stemmed from the ancient Greek and then became the modern Latin alphabet. But then we had this other offshoots. The Brahmi script is a derivative of the Alpe'a'bit. I'll show you that a little bit later. And then we have Alpe'a'bit, right? And Alpe'a'bit developed and then split into, well, it was sort of, it was disguised. And then that disguising split it into two separate versions. We have the Aramaic, which came from it, and the modern Hebrew. The Aramaic stemmed from the Babylonians taking Proto-Canaanite and mixing it with their Akkadian language, which created Aramaic, Imperial Aramaic, which is the official language of the Babylonians when the Hebrews were enslaved by them. It's actually after the enslavement of the Hebrews that we see them coming out of Babylon with this altered language, right? And they're no longer speaking Hebrew, they're actually speaking Aramaic when they come out of Babylon. I believe that this was the beginning of the twisting of this language and the disguising of it. And then the finality of it was the complete loss of how to speak it, which happened around, right around the birth of Christ, a little bit after the birth of Christ, maybe around 100, 200 AD. And I believe that's when it was completely constructed into this completely different form of what we call modern Hebrew, which has nothing to do with the original spoken word of the Bible. Now, from the Aramaic, which was the spoken word of the people in Israel and in the Middle East up until the time of Christ, Aramaic developed into Arabic. Right? So Arabic directly came from Aramaic. It is a further twisting of the already twisted language of the Bible. All right? So in no way does this thing get us closer to this. So Muslim people that believe that this is a more pure, that the Arabic, the experiences of Muhammad and his revelations are somehow closer to the original revelations of the Bible is just insane, because their revelations stem from a twisted language that was twisted from the language of the Bible, right? Jesus actually spoke closer to the original Alpe'a'bit. Aramaic is one-for-one readable in Alpe'a'bit, in the original language of the Bible, and the words are very similar, but some of the vowels are just placed wrong. I believe Jesus actually spoke them correctly, but people could understand what he was saying because the languages were close enough. Let's keep going. Alpe'a'bit Greek-Latin connection, right? So up here we have the Alpe'a'bit, right? This is like what it looked like, Proto-Sinaitic, what the Bible would have originally been written in. Here we see the evolutions of these letters over time, right? So this is Alp. Alp was an ox. It develops into this Phoenician A. And you can see that you just kind of turn it on its side, put a little line through it. It still looks like an ox, But then by the time you get to the Archaic Greek, they're flipping it all the way on its side. Now it doesn't really look like an ox anymore, unless you know that it does. And you can see how over time, these shapes, these pictures were shifted until you don't even know that they're pictures anymore. They're just symbols. So, right. So each one of these pictures means something. Please ignore this fish. This is partially, it's not the best chart. I need to fix this one actually, but this was actually a door. All right, let's get into that. I'll show you. But let's just keep looking at some of these evolutions first. All right, this is the evolution of the Alpe'a'bit into into the Phoenician, which then evolved into the Aramaic down here. You see how it changed into the Aramaic. The shifting, the twisting of it over time. Okay? And then here we have an example of the Brahmi script. Now, I don't have real proof. I don't have a transfer date or a transfer point where the Brahmi script and the people in India obtained the Brahmi script and came in contact with this Alpe'a'bit. And it might not even been the Alpe'a'bit they came in contact with. It might have been the Greek or the Phoenician text, you see. But you can see here, comparing them, when you compare the shapes, they're actually very similar, right? So the sound for ah is very close to this cow, ah, this oxen, right? This is the shape for bit, a tent floor plan, and here's ba, right? Ba, very close, you see. The shape for ga, gamil, gamma, right? And it's very close to the Greek gamma. So I believe that these sounds developed. Sorry, the Brahmi script was developed from the archaic or the Phoenician, the archaic Greek or the Phoenician. And again, what you find is in each of these examples, when a culture comes in contact with the Alpe'a'bit, they don't adopt the Alpe'a'bit itself and its way of speaking. They twist the Alpe'a'bit and they cut up the language and the words and the symbols to fit their way of speaking. Right. That's always what humans try to do. They try to take Allah's divine truth and twist it to form their own way. Sorry for all the snorting in the background. It's my 3 dogs. 2 of them are French bulldogs, so they're very snorty. Isn't that right, Outlaw? So the Israelite enslavement in Babylon. Israel was enslaved by the Babylonian Empire around 600 BCE. Before their enslavement by the Babylonians, the Israelite people used the pictographic language of Alpe'a'bit. And after their enslavement, we see their script had become twisted into the Aramaic script, leading to the modern Hebrew script. And the Israelite population no longer spoke Hebrew, but spoke Aramaic. I believe this twisting was done by the Satanic forces that long to control the human spirit and separate us from God. I say satanic because actually in Alpe'a'bit, the way you say Satan is Sethan. Sithan. Satan is actually an elevated name. It's closer to like a holy person. A Satan is essentially a holy person. A Sethan is a person who is weaving the blessing of Leah into the lowest seeds of their desires. Sithan. I believe all languages are in fact twistings of the original sacred language, Alpe'a'bit. Reconstructing the original language. The modern Hebrew language is a reconstructed language based on the false assumption that the original language of the Torah was an abjad, or a consonant-only script, containing no vowels. This, I can show, is a wrong assumption. I show the Alpe'a'bit Proto-Sinaitic language and script always had vowels, but the Greeks are credited with their creation because they took the vowels that they liked and they used, and the sounds they used, and they separated them out of the letters, okay, and made new letters out of them. And the reason that's a little confusing for us is because some of the vowel sounds actually in Alpe'a'bit can also be consonantal, right? So yid has a y sound, but it can also be a e, id. So if it's next to a vowel, it can take on its consonant form. And if it's next to a consonant, it can take on its more vowel form. It's a more fluid language. It's beautiful. By looking at the original transfer of the Proto-Sinaitic scripts to the Greeks, I reconstructed the sounds of the original letters. And when I did that, it put everything right in place. Every single letter now has its own sound, a very particular sound, and you know which sound it is. They don't get confused or mixed up. All right, here we have Alp. Alp is the sacred will, the divine will. It is the first sound that's created. The ah. It's related to oxen because in traditional West Asian cultures, it's related to willpower, right? And the ability to create something, like being able to till your field and farm and create sustenance for your family. So it's your willpower. You would have this ox, and you would have an older ox who knew how to do the work, right? So you got your ox, right? Got your older ox maybe that knows how to do the work. You got your young ox over here that don't know how to do the work, all right? So what do? Well, you yoke this younger ox right here to this older ox right here, and the younger ox is now being pulled through the work of tilling the field, doing the work of Alea, and it's being pulled through the work by the will of the older ox. Whether it wants to or not, it's going to be pulled through the work. It might even think it's doing its own work, or it might even think it's planting its own seeds, but it's really doing the work that the older ox is pulling it through. See? So, Alp also has to do with your willpower being yoked to the higher will. Your lower will is yoked to the higher will. And Alea is guiding you through the work. See? Guiding you through the work of your life. Trying to teach you how to do the work of Alea, which is your highest potentiality, your highest self. Next we get bit, right? So we go bi. Now the divine will, the ox is b. It's in the family. It's in the floor. Sorry, the tent. It's in the tent. Right? So this has to do with a dwelling place. It's a home. It's a tent for the family because you used to live in tents back in the day. You know, especially the Israelites, they would live in tents, moving around. So the tent is for your family. Now you're taking the blessing of Alea, the ox, and you bring it into your house. Ab. You see? Now your mouth is the house. The mouth is holding b. The lips take the vibration of Alea, and it vibrates into your lips. It's holding the blessing of Alea. All right? And that's where the family dwells, is inside the house. So ba means dwelling. It means family, inherently. Gamil. Gamil. All right. So now the blessing of Alea is coming into its growth. So moves from the front of the mouth, from the house, the front of the mouth, to the back. G. Now the vibration is happening in the back of the mouth, sort of where the mouth meets the throat. And the vibration is growing. It's growing. weaning. It's weaning. It's weaning. All right. So gamil means to grow, wean. Like a child taking its first steps, or like a man taking his first steps out the house. Next, the blessing is moved to the front of the mouth, to the front of the house. It's been weaned, it's been grown, see? And now to the front of the house, the door, the d. It's at the dot, which stands for door. Dot literally stands for door in Alpe'a'bit. And it means, in the pictographic meaning, opening the guidance in the maker's mark. Right? So, dot is opening the door. La is lamed, means guidance. And t is the mark of Alea, which is essentially eternity. It's the eternal realm. The sound has been weaned, and it's d, opening the door now. Push, the tongue creates pressure against the roof of the mouth, and the blessing is trying to push out. Duh. As it does, that makes it be revealed. Eya. A. Right? So the sound A is actually more related to eya. This became epsilon. In Greek, became our modern E. Eya in Alpe'a'bit means to make exist or reveal. That's the word for to reveal, to exist. In the pictographic meaning, it means existing in the work being made to exist. It was originally a man raising his arms to reveal something or behold something, and it can also mean praise, but here I believe it's mean revelation, something being shown and known at the same time. It has one crown tag. We'll get into crown tags later. I call it eya because in the transfer to Greek it became epsilon, and e, or in Latin, implying the H sound was never originally present with the he. The H sound is a misdirect from the dark forces, added to the eya, so that people nowadays would be confused about which one is supposed to be H. Well, luckily we have the transfer into Greek that shows that it did not become H, it became eya, right? So now the blessing is revealed in its changed form. The unobstructed ah is now lowered a little bit into its lower form, the The jaw moves up. See? Jaw moves up, and that creates a The blessing is revealed after growing and weaning. But now the blessing needs to be connected to be able to do the work. So, ooh, the lips close around the blessing. Ooh, they create a really tight channel for the blessing to go through. Ooh. Okay, so ooh was originally a tent peg, as you can see here. It was originally a tent peg. It became upsilon in the Greek. They call it vav now. Ridiculous. They call it vav because in Latin, it develops into the V shape, and then upsilon develops into the V shape, and then the V used to be a U. It used to be the U sound, you see? It's only in modern times that we changed it into this the sound. And I'm going to show, I show in my book that the V sound is actually related to a B. It's a B mixed with an H. It's a B with a separation put into it. So, woo is connection. It's a tent peg. It's connecting something to another thing. Woo, what's revealed now is connected. It's connected to the zero. It's the zayin. It's a cutting instrument. Zit, right? Zayin. This was the what they would call a plow, essentially, right? It is, you would hook your it's a mattock. You would hook your oxen up to the plow, the mattock, and they would pull the mattock through the work so that you could plow the fields. Now listen, when you put your mouth, when you make a Z sound, zzz, zzz, the Z, zzz, zzz, the tongue becomes a cutting instrument in your mouth. You see, it's being held between the lower teeth, and it's being held in this sort of space between the teeth, and it allows it to vibrate, and that vibration is cutting. See, it's like cutting the air. And it makes a similar sound to like something being dragged through, creating like frictive force, as you would when you're plowing, Next, we're going to take the sound, what's been plowing, to allow space to make for seeds. I put this as sowing. I meant to change this. It's actually plowing, which is related to sowing. Obviously, it's tilling and sowing. It's tilling and plowing, really, is what zero means. It's cutting into and making loose space. All right, so it's tilling. Next, the zzz, the field has been tilled, and now we have to be able to separate. So we're going to take the and we're going to go put it in its fence. We're going to separate it. See, the H sound is the sound for separation. It was originally the fence wall that you would keep your animals in, right? So it's separating the blessing of Alea. See, it's separating it. He in this language means alive. It's actually the word for alive. So when they say the tree of life, they're saying the tree of Chiyam, essentially, or Chia. And that means separation in doing the work. Right? That's what the pictographic meaning of he is, separation in doing the work. He means to be alive. That's what I just said. And so, yeah, literally, it's you have to separate the sound of your voice to be able to make it. You have to take the blessing and then separate it, and that friction of the air going through your mouth as you constrict the back of your throat creates the sound. Okay. Now you have to take the blessing that you separated, and you have to put it into your basket. Now your basket is at the front of your teeth. The basket's at the front of your teeth, and you're taking the sound and you go, and you're moving it with your tongue to the front of the teeth, and you get your th. This is thub, okay? Thub is your basket. It's the blessing basket. It's your harvest basket, but it's also your basket of seeds, right? Like when you're going to go sowing, after you've plowed and tilled your field, you've got your basket, okay? You've got your basket right here, and it's going to be full of all these different seeds. And you're going to have to be able to separate the good seeds from the bad seeds, right? But you have to do the work of planting these seeds. You have to plant this blessing. And actually, God says not to separate the good or the bad. It's to take all the blessings as they are and love them. We'll get into biblical understanding later, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the tree of knowing Thub, the blessing, which is the blessing connected to the family, and Ro, which is the mind that knows, R-O, Ro, the mind that sees, right? So evil is seeing and knowing the blessing and thinking you should know which blessing you should get and which one you shouldn't. You see, that's what mind of evil is. Thub, good, is the blessing connected to the family. You just take whatever blessings you get and you give whatever blessings you get away freely. You don't pick or choose. So we've taken our blessing. It's in our blessing basket. It's in our basket. It's good. It's very thub. Very thub. All right, and now we're going to start doing the work. And we got to pick out our seeds that we're going to do. This is the work of Alea. We're planting the seeds. Yid. We're taking our hand and it's our grasping hand. Yid was a grasping hand doing the work. It's grasping the seeds that it wants to plant and putting them in the ground. The Yid stands in the Alpe'a'bit. It stands for it means hand in Alpe'a'bit, but in the pictographic meaning it means the work opening the door. The hand working that's opening the door, right? It's written in modern alphabet in Y and I. Yi-I. Yi-I. All right. Now you've got your yi, right? We take our blessing, we place it in our yi. I. It's in the back of our throat now, being held in the back of our mouth by that yid. Yi. And with our other hand, we open the space in the soil to make a space for the blessing. We k. We're making spaces in the soil. Yik, yik, yik. In each one of these, we're grasping a seed, y, and we're k, making a space in the soil, and we're putting the seed in the space. Ka stands for giving, and it stands for space. Giving space, see? It's the open hands, the giving hands. So now we've got our blessing, k, 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 and k is getting, gonna need guidance now, right? In the same way that we've got our, we have to guide our, oh, and this is interesting too, because you're going to be thub, your blessing basket. You're going to be blessing your oxen with food too. You see, blessing your oxen. Here's some food. You see, giving them the work, open hands, giving them the food. Now you're going to have to guide. You got to guide not just the oxen, but you also have to be able to guide your plant as it's growing, you see, because you're going to nip little buds off or whatever. You're going to cut little leaves off. That's guiding the plant. So this is your shepherd staff. La la la. La 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 la. Now you're guiding your blessing. La 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 la. La 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 la. It's your shepherd staff to guide your oxen to greener pastures, to the right waters, to the best foods to eat. It's also your staff that you're using to guide your plant. It's growing your plant, see? To guide it in the right direction. La 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 la. Now you're going to need to water. You water your plant. You enclose your mouth around. Enclose your mouth around the blessing. And the blessing is being watered. Mim. There's a high water that opens, me, and that gives the water from up, down. There's a low water that receives, mim. Now it's closed over again. See, mim, mim. The high M is the opening M. The low M is the closing M. See, open M, closed M. That's the end form mim, the lower mim, the lower water. Mim is also related to soul. Okay, it's related to our souls. You have to water your seeds, mim, 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 but you also have to water your oxen, taking them to the right waters, right? Now this all leads to minu, nun, mim. You've watered everything, now you got to nun. Nun is the sprout. I said seed here, it can be a seed too, but it's really a sprout. The lower mim, nun, the lower nun, right here, lower nun, the nun at the end, is a lower seed. I guess you could say that's the seed. And then the upper nun is the sprout. It's the sprouting seed. Nun, 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 nun. The sprout is opening the way, nun, in your mouth, nun, to the blessing that's growing. Nun. And nun also tightens the blessing, so it's constricting it in a u. So it's connecting. It's connecting the high seed to the low seed. Nun. Right, it was the high sprout to the low seed. It stands for N, the N sound. Develops into nu in the Greek and the N in our modern alphabet. So now we've taken that n, the sprouting seed, and it goes to ks, ks, and that's ksmek, the plant prop up here. It's a plant support. You see, it's like literal thing, like pillar growing up. It's got the little things, you know, the tiers to hold up the different plants that you're going to be growing, you know. So that's your plant support. And anybody who's grown a garden, I'm learning this myself. I just started growing tomatoes and stuff like that, and I did not put plant supports in, and those things were struggling for a while. So your plants really do need a support. So ks, n, ks. You take this, the blessing nun, that's open from the tongue, nun, in the back, and it's going into the k. It's getting an open space of support, k, just like the kaf, the cup, but it goes from an open space of support, k, to a closed space of weaving in the s, ks, ks. So it's like support, and it's being woven in and out of the support. Ks, ks, ks. It's a space that it's weaving in and out of. In the same way that a plant grows in and out of a space. So it's ks, ks, ks. It's X in the modern alphabet. It became Xi in the Greek, and Samek in the modern Hebrew. Ks. Now you take the blessing that's got this open support from K, S, into Oyin. So, oh, 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 oh. Now you see. Oh, now you see. Because you're seeing with your O, Oyin. Your Oyin is an eye. And what do you see with your eye? Well, you see a plant growing. You see a blessing coming from the ground. Oh. Oh, look at that blessing. I wonder what that blessing is. Oh, look at that. That's a sexy blessing. I bet that's going to be a nice blessing just for me. Oh. It's the mind that knows, the eye that knows. This is why O is related to Ro. R-O is the mind that knows, Ro. R is the mind. O knows. It knows what that seed is going to be, and it thinks that that sprout should be itself. It should be for it, not for anybody else. Or maybe it should not be for me. I don't want that sprout. I don't want to get that seed, so I'm going to give that to someone else because I know it's better for them than me. because I shouldn't get it. It's a bad one. The mind that knows the blessings. Yeah, you think you do. So, you really, you know, huh? Oh, you know, okay. Oh, okay, let's see, you know. You know, well, let's start speaking that knowledge. Pop, pop. Oh, p. So, p, p, p. P is the upper word being revealed. The mouth revealing the word. Ope. Open, see? Knowing, speaking. Open. Revealed in the lower seed. Open, see? Open is knowing, speaking, revealed in the lower seed. So pe. P, p. You close your mouth around the blessing. Pe. You taste the blessing, and then you speak the blessing. Pe, pe. That you just tasted. You speak the blessing to other people. You're like, there's the blessing. Pe, pe, pe. Pe, pe. It's the blessing. I see it. I speak it. I know it. It's going to be good. Right? You think. You're speaking this blessing. You're trying to speak this blessing. It became pi in Greek, and it also became phi, and it also became the modern P and the modern F. An F is a P where it's open on the top, and it's got a H, a chi coming through, so it's a P, he. See? P. Pe is the word being revealed, and it is the high word of God. You'll see later on, we get into that, but here, you're speaking the word. You're speaking what you think you know, pe. And where does that get you? Pe? Well, now you take the blessing, tsad, and you're going to go chase that pe. You told everybody where that blessing is. Now you're chasing down that blessing. This is the righteous desire. All right, tsud means chase. It's related to the hunt, so it's like hunting. Well, if you're hunting for yourself, then you're hunting for your lower self. This is the lower tsud. And if you're hunting for aleya, or chasing for aleya, then this is the higher tsud. It's the righteous chase, the righteous desire. All right. So you're speaking what you see, know, and pe takes the blessing see, and it makes the blessing known, which is a mark. It makes it happen, marks it in existence, like the mark T, and we'll get into that. But it tightens, it takes that blessing, and it weaves it. It's weaving it with a sin. Okay? It's got this very tight, constricted, just like the kus opened it, a blessing, and then put it into the weaving space of sin. But here we have the t. It's revealing the mark making exist. What this blessing, what is desired, what you think you know, and tightening it into this weaving, and it's now weaving it. Tsud. See? So it's weaving this mark of desire, which leads to tsud kubits. Weaving the mark of desire leads to kubits. You've been chasing down your desires. Maybe you harvested your plants, right? Now you've got your spindle. This is your this right here is a drop spindle. This is what kubits was originally. And you take your spun fibers and you hook them around here on the end, and then you spin this thing off your leg, and as it spins down, it spins the fibers around it as it drops. Okay? And that's how they would make thread, so that they could weave clothes. So kubitz is taking the thread of tsud and you chasing your desires, and it's spinning it into a heap that you can try to weave with. Okay, so it's kubitz. Kubitz means there's no Hebrew word kof as they use in Hebrew or kopa. It's rather the closest word to the meaning is kubitz, and kubitz means to gather together, right? Gathering around, and it's where we get our word kob from. Actually, it's kob, corn on the cob. It's corn on the kubitz. In the pictographic meaning, it means the spinning thread in the house of the lower desire. Okay, spinning the thread in the house of the lower desire. In Alpe'a'bit, implying the thread of chaos that you chased and your desires that you chased is now gathered together, and it's being spun into a fiber that can be woven into an actual thread, an actual mark of eternity, something actually beautiful. Okay, not just what you think is going to be beautiful, but what is actually beautiful. This weaving is going to begin to be done with the mind, right? So we ku. And let's go back to that for a second. So we got the kubitz. We took the the mark of our desire that is now that we wove into our reality. And God has spun that into a fiber that can be worked with and used to create something else. That's what kubitz is. So we have our ku, but the cup that's opening a space is being tightened into a ku. It's tightened into a wu. See? Kubitz. Ku. So the ku sound is an open space that's tightened into an u that can be connected. See? It can be connected to something else. Ku. Next, the ra. Kura. Ra. Now the ra takes the blessing. Ku. Ra. Ra. Now this is the mind speaking and thinking. The mind of the sacred will being nursed. That's what ras means. Ras. Ra. The blessing is ra. It's opened up. Ra. And kind of directed. Ras stands for the head, the mind. Okay? So the mind is going to direct how this blessing is going to be manifested. Ras. And ras has now taken the ras. It's taken the ra blessing, opened it, ra, kura, and brings in the sin. The sin is the teeth. It means sharp. It was originally, you see this? This was a netting needle. Two little sharp teeth on one side and the other. And this is what they would use to create nets. This was a needle for netting. All right? So sin is taking the blessing and creating a small channel in the tongue, and it's feeding that blessing through the channel, through the teeth. And those teeth are weaving existence. Okay? So it's been translated as feed, as the Hebrew word sin means tooth. And it is feeding. You're feeding something through the teeth, see? However, the Alpe'a word sin is also related to a sharp piece of something. It's like I said, bone or ivory, a sharp piece of bone or ivory usually. And that's what they would use for sewing and weaving too. It was a sharp piece of bone or ivory. So this is what sin is. Also, the word sad. The word sad is the Alpe'a word for breast, and that means to, feed. You're feeding a baby. So, and it's kind of the same sound too. It's if you're trying to soothe a baby, you're going to use this sound. And if you're trying to wet a thread to get through a needle, you're going to put it through your teeth, through this little channel in your tongue right there. Wet it. All right. Sin means sharp tooth in Alpe'a, and in the pictographic meaning, it means sowing the seed in. It means sowing the seed, sowing the lower seed. So sin, it's weaving, weaving the lower seed. Weaving the lower seed leads to two, and this is finally where we end. This is God's mark, right? It looks, if you look at it, it looks like two threads coming together, like you're weaving something, right? And that's what it is. It's a creation of God. It's it's God's eternal creation, so to speak. It's the mark of God, mark of Alea. It's also in a mark engraving what belongs to Alea. So when Jesus says in Revelations, I am the Aleph and the two, he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, right, in the Greek. But in the Pesthita, the Aramaic version of the Bible, of the New Testament, which is what the New Testament was originally written in, it is not the Alpha and the Omega, it's the Aleph and the two, because the A is the first sound and the two is the last in the Alpe'a'bit. So God, Alea, Jesus Christ is the Aleph and the two. He is the mark at the end of time that is an engraving of what is eternal, that is taking all of the chaos of all of our existences in our lives and crafted it into something beautiful. And so that's what the two is. It's the mark of God's creation, eternal mark of God's creation. It means Alea's mark of creation, Alea's mark of connection. That's what the two is, and it's connected to everybody. So you see, it's a mark, marking what exists today. And that brings us to the end of the introduction to the Alpe'a'bit. My next section will be going over. The Alpe'a'bit as the spoken, written word of blessing. Give you a little look into that first. So thank you very much for hanging out with me, and join me for my next video on Alpe'a'bit, the spoken written word of blessing, and then we will be getting into the trifold tree of life, which is built into the Alpe'a'bit and the structure of it itself. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please contact me through YouTube on my channel, or I have links on there for my emails. You can get in touch with me there too. So thank you very much, and Alpe'a'bit. That means God bless you in the original language.